Today we are going to talk with James Bartle from Outland Denim, a brand that I really love. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for being a part of Tripping Blue. For me, it's a big pleasure to have you here with us, and basically because you are, I admire your work that you are doing, but much more because you can inspire the South and Central America with good mission and nice ideas, and of course a big social impact that we must have in here as well. So the stage is all yours, and talk a little bit about your introduction and tell us how Outland began.
Sure. Thank you, Anna. It's really nice to be able to be here with you and with your audience as well. It is a privilege to be able to share our story. My name is James Bartle, and I'm the founding CEO of Outland Denim. And we're obviously a denim brand, but we're a denim brand that was built with a real purpose, and that came about in pretty unconventional ways. It all started about 11 years ago for me, and I had the opportunity to travel with a rescue agency that specialized in the identification and rescue of young women that may have been sold into the sex industry, or they may have been sold even into the garment sector, where they might have just been a slave making clothing all day, every day. For me, that trip was really something that completely changed my life. It was a trip that opened my eyes to the realities for so many people around the world. I think today there's an estimated 40.3 million slaves in the world, and the human trafficking industry is worth about $150 billion. So it's a really serious problem. It's a global issue. But when I was exposed to it at its grassroots, it was something that changed the way I thought about industry. I was with the rescue agency on that particular trip, and they took me to an area that was full of sex workers. And I mean, I'd seen all of those things before, and it wasn't all that confronting, to be perfectly honest. It was, everybody looked to be happy and okay with being there. But as we walked further and went into an area that it was less populated, I could see up on the right-hand side, there was a lineup of young ladies. And as we got closer, it was really clear that one of them was really young, and she was really scared and intimidated. And, you know, at the time I had two young nieces, and I imagined if that was one of my nieces, how would I react to that? And I wondered where that little girl's dad was, or uncle, or who was looking for her. Do they even know she's there? And I turned to the representative from the rescue agency, and I said, "What are we going to do about this?" And he said, "James, if you look around, these little girls are everywhere." And, you know, it was at that moment that I really realized that I wanted to be a part of this solution. This is a global problem, and this is something that's impacting so many people in the most horrific ways. Yet, for some reason, it doesn't appear like we're able to address this issue. Underpinning all of this was poverty. I learned more over the coming years as we started employing people and going on this journey to try and create pathways to a life of what we would say is freedom, a lifestyle like I get to enjoy, where I can pay for my rent, I can plan for the future, I can even save. And I wondered why that wasn't accessible to everybody. And so we decided to build a business model that was addressing that. The reason we chose denim, though, was not as probably meaningful or powerful. It was simply because I wanted to be a cowboy ultimately, and this is as close as I've been able to get to it. And I just love the product. I think it's the most powerful product in the world for a range of reasons. And so we decided to embark on this journey nearly 11 years ago to train young women in a range of things, but that we could train them also in denim making. And today we've launched our brand now 5 years ago, after 6 years of development and proving that this was a powerful business model on a social and also environmental standpoints to lead us to being able to, be here with you guys today and share a little bit more about it.
And about this kind of business model, so how does it works? And do you have some idea of spreading out in other region in the world? Like this is a global problem that you said, that's true. and sometimes it's much bigger in other region than there, for example.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right.
I know that you are touching in a big point, but sometimes we have to make like a massive resolution.
Yeah,
No?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
um, what do you think about this? Just tell us about the business model, and then
Yeah.
what do you think if you can repeat in another region?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, we would love to be able to do this in many regions of the world. I believe that the model that we've been working on over the last 11 years is one that's profoundly powerful. It's very simple, but it's very powerful. It's really built on four pillars. The business model is, first of all, giving opportunity to people that wouldn't necessarily get it otherwise. And that's for a range of different reasons, but often because they've come from a traumatic background, or they have no skills, or whatever it might be. Our job is to be able to create an opportunity for those kinds of people. So once they're in and they're working with us, they're paid a living wage from the first day they start. And a living wage is different to a minimum wage. Our industry talks about minimum wage a lot. The difference is that a minimum wage isn't always enough to live on. And so it's really important that, the research is done in every region where you are to identify what a living wage really looks like. A living wage will incorporate things like, what does it cost to rent? How much does food cost? How much does it cost to support however many dependents? Education, healthcare, saving, um, even going out for dinner on a Friday night, some of these things, so that people can live a normal, enjoyable lifestyle that isn't hindered by poverty. So living wage is made up with a methodology that allows those things. And then from there, it's training. So if you know much about the garment sector, well, the way we do it is we would place somebody on making pockets, and they'd make pockets for their whole life. They'd become really fast and efficient at it. But we don't believe that that's really equipping our staff to be the best they can be. So it's about giving them the opportunity to move around and learn other aspects of it and equip them with the skills they need, which leads us into education. And then education is the last pillar of what we believe is absolutely necessary for people to be able to move forward. And so that might look like some financial training around how to manage your household budget, how to plan for the future. Often people find themselves in a worse position because they're earning all this money now and they've never had that much to deal with before. So giving them training around that's really important. It could be literacy, their own command literacy, or it could be around English, or it could be healthcare, a range of things. And so when they go to work, and what is built into every one of our products is that all of these things are given to everybody involved in making this jean. And so it becomes a very powerful product. But of course, the environmental side of fashion is devastating, and denim is the worst. And so it was very clear that we needed to be able to address these issues as well. And our business has been about innovation and looking to refine the process of making denim so that it reduces the impact, but hopefully one day so that it improves the planet rather than detracts from it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know that sometimes we touch in one point, and you have it to like make a different kind of way, because when you touch here, you open another door and another door and another door, and I think that's this um it's a big problem, but with a very nice result when you see the result, because we are not in seeing how good the pair of jeans of Outland is. It's how transparent the story about what Outland is telling us. And the consequence, it's a very good product as well.
Yes.
Because it's like a cause and consequence, and you are solving both problems, even the social and the hydric or the energetic impact, but you have like a very nice commitment in your hand. And I think that this is one of the things when you just Google about sustainable brands and you find one that's not about in doing organic cotton or greenwashing or
Yeah, yeah,
something that
yeah,
we are tired to hearing about.
yeah, yeah.
I think that
Yeah, it's got to be
sustainable
authentic.
is much more than this.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah. And do you know how many people did you lift out of the slavery over now? And how many people is still working in Outland? Because I know that sometimes it's just a path. So you make like the life easier for them, but then it's still working in the company.
Yeah, so our model is that they can work there as long as they want to. They don't have to leave. And so currently we have, there's about 130 families supported from those working. So there's 130 staff in Cambodia. That's split across two facilities. So we're a small boutique manufacturer,
Mm-hmm.
but the yeah, the amount of people that have come through, most of them stay. So there's not that many that come through and move on.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is really just to prove this on this small scale, to prove the power of this kind of business model through our own brand. We also produce for other brands now as
Mm-hmm.
well. And we see that the fashion industry as a whole is what's going to create the change that we need to see. So it's not going to happen just because of us. It's
Mm-hmm.
we're just going to be one small piece of the puzzle, but
Mm-hmm.
we hope to inspire other brands and other manufacturers to embark on this journey as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that you are doing it. Oh, even waking them up, like, okay, that's time to change. We have to
Yeah,
stop to talk about things that we are not doing and make
yeah,
doing first and then talking.
yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
um, I love the organic thing, that the narrative that you use in Outland, because sometimes when we're just in surfing on the e-commerce website, we can see like who is making the product and the name of the people that they are working for. And I love this kind of um, intimative way that we can know about the name, the
Yeah, yeah,
person, the life, the family.
absolutely.
uh, this is amazing because these are kind of jeanswear stories that we can tell. And when you start to work in jeanswear industry and then in industry, we know that we have like a many hands inside the process. And it's
Yeah,
very nice when you can talk with one of pair of those hands.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
uh, as the Outland team is made up mostly by women, how was this transformation for those women? Like a painful experience, traumatic experience, and they could transform those experience in the product with such a beauty and
Yeah,
very strong personality.
yeah, yeah.
How did it work?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's really incredible stories of how our staff have changed their own lives, and I reinforce that how they've changed their own lives, and I think that's key in why this is being so successful. I think it's been successful because we don't go in and treat this as a charity. This is creating pathways for people. This is giving them and equipping them with the tools they need to be able to be successful themselves. And one particular story that really stands out, in fact, you can see behind me on the wall, there's a set of hands and a sewing machine in that picture. That's actually the first lady that we employed. She was 17 when she came to work with us. She was sexually exploited. She had suffered a lot of trauma, and she reported that she felt she had no dignity because of the things that she had been exposed to. After a number of years working hard, acquiring new skills, and putting them into practice, she was able to buy and build a home for her family who previously lived under a plastic sheet. So, straight away, she's somebody who's now the provider for the family, her mum, her dad, her siblings. And then she also went on to report that she had bought her sister back from someone that owned her. And so it's a very, very confronting, I guess, life that she had led. But now this lady had been the one that was really making way for the rest of her family. She started to report this dignity to be something that she felt again. She felt dignified in what she did. She felt like she was proud of the work and she had honor in her community. And so I think that that's a really, really powerful moment. And there's countless more of those moments that we've seen within our group of staff in Cambodia. So we're really, really proud of what the business model can achieve, but ultimately really, really proud of like how courageous our staff are and the women that work with us in their pursuit of creating better lives, not just for themselves, but for other people as well.
Of course, yeah. And how was the pandemic times? Like, how did the pandemic affect you and the brand and the people that work on the brand? And as well, the pandemic, I think that could help some brands to grow online space. And I think that Outland, there is a kind of case of it. So how did you and your team just pass for that time?
Yeah, good question. Look, it was a really challenging time, having closures and then also closing our factories for about 6 months in a few different smaller slots to try and just ensure the safety of our staff. And that was really hard because it was a very costly exercise for our company in that we're still having to pay wages for people to sit at home. They can't work. How do you manage that? On top of that, when COVID hit, we lost about 70% of our revenue when all our retailers closed, and so that was a huge hit for us. So yes, it meant that we had to fast track the work we're doing with our direct sales part of our business, and over time that has become a really, in fact, the most stable part of our business now is our direct sales online. But I never want to neglect the importance of bricks and mortar retail. And there's one reason, and I think it's quite an important one for us all to consider, is that I think the statistics would say that between 1 in 6 or 1 in 8 people on the face of this planet work within the fashion industry at some level. So when you think about that, it proves the importance of things like bricks and mortar retail, where retailers are employing local people to work. And I think there's a real strong case for us to all think about how we should support that, but then also how our customers can actually have a better experience by going on and trying a pair of jeans with somebody who understands the fits and helps them get the perfect one. I think there's a lot of benefit for our customers in that as well. So it's, I think, adapting to what COVID has brought. It is much more of a holistic business model where we do have direct sales, but in a really strong way. But we're also we haven't forgotten our wholesale business, and we're very committed to it.
And I think that you touched on the good point. I think that the consumer, the user, is much more, is questioning much more now about the decisions that Outland made in traceability, environmental impact, family education. And how do you think that the user, the consumption, the consumer, the people that buy Outland Denim, it's questioning over now? Do you think that how it's gonna be maybe next year?
Yeah, I think that the consumer is becoming much more educated rapidly, and we can see proof of this because the big brands are really moving in that direction. They're making big lofty statements that might say sustainable, for example, and that term itself is quite frustrating in that what does that actually mean? But people identify that word as meaning that it's environmentally sustainable. The reality is there is no gene on the planet that's sustainable, and I think that's something that we need to remember is nobody has gotten to that place yet. So how do we combat that? How do we educate our consumers about the reality? Well, that comes down to authenticity and honesty. And as a brand, and every brand should be willing to do that. So I'd say that, moving forward, this particular sentiment amongst consumers will only get stronger. My advice to anybody in the denim space, that if you're not moving in this direction, you're going to get left behind. There's probably always going to be a price point market for sure, of course, but we also need to consider this market moving in this direction as well. How do we produce products and reduce the impact of those products for that particular market? So that there's a long way to go on that, but any brand that isn't thinking about this will get left behind.
Yeah, and your suppliers, I think that's play an important role inside the brand, so inside the production chain. And do you think that sustainable mindset is about sharing this kind of information and growing together? Because sometimes I think that when you talk with people that there is though this mindset, it's about like I don't have the receipt, the secret receipt. I can share with you everything that I have, because the thing is, I want that you can do whatever you want to do, but doing better than me. And it's about it.
It's extremely important to collaborate. We need to work together to solve this issue. Regardless of whether you believe in global warming or you don't, that doesn't matter. What we can all absolutely agree on is that we have one Earth, and we should do the very best thing we can do to protect it, regardless.
We almost don't have anymore. So if you don't save this Earth, we don't have it.
Yeah. I don't know what our chances of living on Mars look like. So I really do believe that we need to do all we can do as quickly as we can to clean up industry, and not just the fashion industry, all industries, but in particular the fashion industry, which is rated as one of the greatest polluters of all industries. So it's a really important place for us to start. And again, denim being one of the worst because of the chemicals and water that's used and energy that's used in the process. So we can innovate. What this does is it creates opportunity for us to be creative and think about new ways of producing. And if we're willing to do that, then, what does the future look like? It could look really bright and prosperous for brands who move in this direction.
Yeah, completely agree. So what's the next step of this cultural shift in your industry? And what you can see more in 2022?
Yeah, look, we're going to see more in 2022 of brands trying to communicate what they are doing. My warning to brands that are doing that and potentially doing it in a way that isn't entirely true, and it could be manipulative, is that you're actually slowing the process down by being manipulative or greenwashing, so to speak, the truth. You are slowing down the impact on the planet. So I think that's a question that brands need to ask themselves. Do I want to be somebody that's speeding this up or slowing it down? Well, if you want to speed it up, you need to be honest about the realities of what your brand does and doesn't do. If you're able to do that, consumers will make the choice as to whether they will align with your brand based on their own personal values. The other thing I would say is that I believe that customers all the way across the world, communities everywhere, and the individuals in them are absolutely smart enough to be able to take you to, I guess, hear the truth about your brand, the good and also the bad, and weigh it up for themselves, and as to whether it aligns with themselves personally. So I would say that one of the benefits that I think that all of us can get is that as we're more honest and transparent with the world, we are going to build trust with our community. And ultimately, trust is what gets somebody to a place where they'll purchase from you. And so there is a very good commercial reasoning or thought that you would have around being honest with your community. So if you are honest, hey, we're not here yet. We haven't been able to achieve this yet, but this is our goal and we're working toward it. And then keep them updated on the process of working toward that goal. Then I think that absolutely the future looks incredibly bright.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing when you talk and when you have like this kind of conversation, and sometimes we can just think with another kind of view, and we can change, and we know that we are doing maybe a good work, but we have a huge way to do much more than we are doing now. And I think that sometimes it's just about think about the overview and try to make like a small change and touch another lives and ask about the life really. What are you doing? Are you well? How are you doing today? And sometimes we just forget because we are rushing for our work or for many devices that we have to answer, and sometimes the life is a little bit slow down just to see what you have inside, because we are very lucky, and we know that we are very lucky because we can make like life transformation. So thank you for for being an example for us. I know that you don't like this kind of title, like, okay, I'm not an example, I'm just a guy that are doing kind of work and helping we can help. But I think that sometimes we need this kind of example just to understand that we can be an example for somebody else. So thank you for being a very example for us and inspiring and doing this amazing, well done work with Outland Denim and with those women that could be one of us. So thank you for helping and for protecting and giving them dignity. So I think that's about it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time in here.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me. Honestly, genuinely a fantastic opportunity for me to be able to share a little bit of our story with you. And I hope that it has been able to just inspire you on your own journey of what you're able to do and contribute into your own community. So cheers.
Yeah, I think that some brands in here have like a nice opportunity to try to make their own path. So thank you for sharing your way. Thank you.
No worries.
So thank you, James.